Okay, so today's video is going to be a bit light-hearted. I'm going to digress a bit from my usual topics about buying and selling cars. I'm going to talk about a movie that I just watched last night for the first time. And what really fascinated me about this movie was that this movie was made in 1971. I had read the synopsis before I watched the movie. It means that I watched the movie for the very first time having already known the ending before I watched it. And yet, I was able to, in one sitting, means that besides toilet break, go and pour water and all that, right? I just sat down for 1.5 hours and I watched the movie from start to end. All right. So, the movie I'm talking about is Duel, made in 1971. And this was the movie that made Steven Spielberg famous. Now, the plot of that movie is very simple, actually. It's just the story about this guy driving in the desert highway in America and being chased by this psycho truck driver. And throughout the whole movie, we never saw the face of the truck driver. So, spoiler alert, okay? We never saw the face of the truck driver. And what is fascinating to me was that even though I knew the ending of the movie, all right, even though the plot is so simple, and the movie is obviously produced with very low budget, I was able to watch the movie from start to end without feeling, bored, without feeling, hey, when is it going to advance to the next. So what that showed is that that movie was a real demonstration of Steven Spielberg's talent because he directed a movie of such a simple plot and he was able to keep the audience engaged from start to finish. Minimal dialogue, minimal dialogue. And it's the kind of movie that will not be made today. This kind of movie will not be made today. So, in a sense, that this movie was a masterpiece at many levels. Okay, and Steven Spielberg was 24 years old when he made that movie. So the thing is that a lot of elements in that movie defy the kind of movie practices of today's movie making. See, the thing is that throughout the whole movie, we never saw the face of the truck driver, who is the psycho killer. We never knew his motivations, right? We don't even, the movie ended without us knowing whether he was dead or alive. We only know that his truck fell into the cliff, but we do not know whether he's dead or alive. And we also know very little about our hero, the hero of our movie. His name is David Mann, and the actor that portrayed him is Dennis Weaver, who has since passed away. So the only thing that the movie established was that this guy was driving to meet his client. Okay, we know that he has a family because in the early part of the movie, there was a scene where he called his wife, and then he was having an argument with his wife over the phone, and 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 he was saying that, okay, don't worry, I'll be back home today. Okay, obviously he was traveling a long distance. Imagine he was in a scenario whereby he was traveling from KL to Penang to meet his client. Okay, and then he promised his wife that he will be home by evening to attend some, I don't know whether it was dinner with the mother-in-law or something like that. So we know very little about the hero. We don't even know who's the client that he's meeting. He didn't establish that what is he going to meet the client for, except that it's very important, right? Obviously. So, the whole time, right, the whole premise of the movie really was keeping the audience suspended on what's going to happen next. What is this truck driver going to do to psychologically torture this guy? Okay, because what happened, and what was funny was that the first scene that showed us the truck driver as the hero of the as the hero of the show approached him on the highway, right, from the back, and the back of the truck says flammable. It says flammable, and the funny thing, what I noticed was that this truck is claims to be carrying flammable liquid, but at the end of the movie, when the truck went down the cliff, it never exploded like how Hollywood vehicles always explode when they fall off a cliff, right? This truck never exploded, even though the cargo was labeled as flammable. My suspicion was that because Spielberg made this money at such a low budget, all right, he probably didn't even have money to blow the truck up. That's my theory. Now, so 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 it started off with him approaching his truck, and then he overtook the truck and he drove on. And as he was driving, he was listening to the radio, and then the truck overtook him back aggressively, right? Cut him off. And it was like, what the hell, lah? You know, and he overtook the truck already, and the truck overtook him already. And after that, the truck drives slowly. And this is the kind of scenario that most of us in the high, when we are driving, will get frustrated. Big lorry in front of us, driving slow, all right? Nyama want to overtake, also cannot see oncoming cars. So that in was the whole premise of the show, when it was like truck overtook him, then he overtook the truck, and then the truck terrorized him from the back. And we never saw the face of the driver, but Spielberg was very deliberate in choosing a truck with a face, right, with a distinctive face. It's called the Peterbilt 281, right, where it's a long bonnet truck and then it has two round headlights with a big grill. So the way he framed the scenes, all right, like sometimes when he showed the truck through the rear view mirror, through the side mirror, or through the front, right, the truck had a very dirty, very angry face, and that was what created the suspense of the movie. Right, this movie, despite being a one time off, there's no follow up, no sequel. This movie stands on its own, and today it has a cult following. In fact, a number of years back, they released a special sort of like Steven Spielberg's 8 DVD, a special collection of 8 of Steven Spielberg's most important films, right? And Duel was one of them. Okay, think of it. This is the guy who made E.T., who made Jurassic Park, right? Executive producer of Back to the Future. So this was the movie where it all started, and this the way he kept audiences tuned in from start to end, even with a simple plot, right? Without an actor playing the role of the villain, right? That just really showcases the directorial genius of him at a young age. So of course, this being a car channel, the vehicles used is of fascination to me, right? So I was observing. So the Peterbilt truck had a very distinctive look to it. Okay, the front fascia of that truck, right, really has an angry face look to it. And the car that the hero character used was a Plymouth Valiant. So of course, this being the car guy moment, I read up a bit about the specs of the car. See, what was crazy about it was that this guy was driving the this is a standard family sedan, right? And normally, based on our experience, you drive a Myvi of yours or so, you can easily outrun a big truck like that. But no, this guy, apparently, even with him going full gas on his Plymouth Valiant, the truck kept up with him. The truck was chasing him and was ready to push him off the road, off the cliff, and he can't outrun the truck. All right. So the Plymouth Valiant, apparently, then I read up in Wikipedia, right? So there was one of the filming cars they used had a V8 engine, and but the variant of the car that they showed in the film is supposed to be the one with a 6 cylinder engine, I think a 3 point, what they call the 225 slant 6, right? A Chrysler 225 Slant 6. It's a 3 point something, 3 point something, a 4-liter 6-cylinder engine that made about 230 horsepower. It's the kind of power that the 530i bigger brother of my car had, and it's like, 230 horsepower, it should be quite fast, right? But in the world of that movie, 230 horsepower was not enough to outrun a crazy truck. There was one other scene in the movie that particularly touched me, was when he was hiding, behind a hill and waiting for the truck driver to drive past so that, the truck driver can go far ahead and he can lose the truck driver, right? And, that got me thinking, you know, because that at that moment in time, my mind went back to the scene where that showed his wife and 2 kids. And that scene is something that a lot of working men can relate to, because at that moment, when you are out there alone facing the challenges of workplace, right? Whether it is you gonna scolded by your boss, scolded by clients, maybe backstabbed by business partners, all this the kind of challenges, the kind of trials and tribulations that you are facing out there, you know, and your wife and kids are at home playing safely, not knowing the trials that you are going through outside to provide for your family, right? That is the kind that was I felt at that moment, I felt that was a scene that a lot of working men, especially of that era in the 70s, right, probably would have related to. Yeah. And of course, there was another lesson that I picked up, was that, sometimes, right, when we are so fixated about going down a path, we got to ask ourselves, sometimes, would it have been smarter to just turn around? Because the one thing that the one major plot hole of that movie is that this guy was heading. The movie started with him reversing out of his Porsche and heading and driving to the highway, obviously to meet his client from very far away. That's the kind of situation where you typically, right, when you are faced with a life and death scenario, somebody's out there trying to kill you. I don't care how important this client is. Isn't that grounds to turn around, to U-turn and go back home to the safety of your family? Or maybe this guy was in such a financially desperate situation where, even faced with this kind of danger, he still had keep going to be there for that meeting, to show up, even though his car was being battered, right? His suit obviously was he's gonna of course turn up for that meeting in a very bad looking shape. But the thought of turning back to his family, it never occurred to him. Now, of course, the way Spielberg filmed and framed this movie was that he left a lot of details to the audience's interpretation. But sometimes it's just worth to think, when you watch a movie, what lessons can you derive from this movie that applies to your life today? Right. So as I was watching that movie yesterday, the 2 moments in that movie that really stood out was, you know, what was going through his mind, the character's mind. Was he thinking about his wife and kids at home? Because if I were in his position, that would be the first thing that I would do, right? That crossed my mind. That my wife and kids are at home. All right, they are not knowing what I'm going through right now, right? And I don't even know whether I can make it home safely tonight to see them again. And yeah, and that to me impacted me the most. Maybe that was why I stayed to the end of the movie and watched it. Now, moving on. After I watched the movie, okay, and YouTube algorithm obviously picked that up and started recommending me another one. This is a movie called Overtake. Okay, it's an Indian movie filmed in Telugu, which is basically a remake of the same concept. Somebody driving a red color car through the desert highway and being chased down by a crazy rusted truck. Okay, now this this truck has the concept is the same. The truck even has the same flammable label on it, but it's just a different model of truck. And the hero car this time, instead of a Plymouth Valiant, is a Mercedes 123. Okay, and it's the Mercedes 123 in my favorite configuration with the painted wheel caps. Right, I've always liked the Mercedes 123 with the painted wheel cap look. I think that is just something that is very classy. We won't see that again anymore. So I think that's a very cool touch. And well, I'm glad that at the end of the movie the car survived, because I hate to see such a classic car being thrown down the ditch. Okay, so but the difference between the Telugu version and the original Indian version was that at the end of the movie, we got to see who the killer was, who the crazy truck driver was. And the story here is that in this version, the truck driver actually has had an agenda attacking the owner of the car, because at some point in the past, this Mercedes owner tried to run down that truck driver while the truck driver was in a motorcycle, right? He, as he was riding the motorcycle, the Mercedes tried to run him down and cause him to fall off the road, and his girlfriend or his wife, right, got impaled by a fence or something like that and died. So this guy had a revenge motive to take him down. Yeah. So, and at the same time, it got me wondering, right? If a Malaysian director were to remake a local version, how would that look like? I would imagine that number one, you probably have to do this in East Malaysia, because I think in Peninsula, there's just the roads here are just a bit we are it's too well connected. We are too well connected. It's very difficult to drive in Peninsula Malaysia more than 10-20 kilometers without civilization, right? East Malaysia is a much better candidate location, because it is possible that you can drive between, let's like Cebu, Bintulu, Miri, Kuching, right? Cover long distances without any civilization. Okay, and of course in Malaysia, the best candidate truck with that angry face would probably be the Mercedes 911 truck, right? That's one truck that I always had a liking for, the fierce looking Mercedes 911. Okay, and the hero car probably would be you a Vios or a Beza, something like an everyday car, or maybe if you want something a bit more classic, a BMW E34. But I hate to see they thrash a BMW E34 down a cliff, right? So you probably want something a bit with a bit less sentimental value, like maybe like a Myvi or a Waja or a Persona, or a Vios, that kind of thing, right? Something that the Malaysian audience can recognize, all right, and yeah, and can root for. So today's video is a light-hearted pivot from my usual topics. That is, somebody was mentioned in the comment section that, Con, you're talking too much about car resale value and all of this. I mean, well, fact of the matter is that is something that affects a lot of people, and that is a topic that I'm making it my mission to champion. But more on that another day. Today, today this video I'm making it about the movie Duel, which is one of two kinds of movies that I like. Right, I like either things with spaceships or things with cars. Right, so and Duel was a movie where the vehicles were the character. All right. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have you watched this movie before? All right. And if you have, do share with me what uh, your thoughts on the video. All right. And on the movie itself. If you have not, you can actually, because this movie is, I think, quite also the copywriting probably no longer applies. You can watch the full movie on YouTube. All right, go and search Duel 1971 movie on YouTube. You find it, you can watch the whole movie. And after that, yeah, share with me your thoughts in the comment section. I'll look forward to hear from you. All right, see you.